The Dravik had ruled the stars for thousands of years. These giant reptile-like aliens were twice as tall as humans and covered in thick scales that shone like metal. They were the strongest beings in the galaxy, with muscles that could crush stone and technology far beyond Earth's. When their massive ships first appeared in Earth's skies, people panicked. News channels showed the dark shapes hanging above major cities. Governments tried to calm their citizens while military leaders met in secret rooms. They could have attacked already if they wanted to, said Commander Park as he studied the satellite images. His face remained calm despite the tension in the room. They're waiting for something. Admiral Kim nodded. First contact protocol is in effect. We show strength through peace. 3 days after their arrival, the Dravik finally sent a message. They would land outside Seoul to meet Earth's leaders. The world watched as their shuttle descended, winds whipping the grass flat for hundreds of meters around it. When the door opened, even the most prepared officials gasped. The Dravik ambassador Handor had to duck to exit his ship. His scaled body gleamed in the sunlight, and 6 golden eyes blinked as they adjusted to Earth's brightness. 4 armed guards followed him, each carrying weapons that hummed with strange energy. We greet you on behalf of the Dravik Empire, Handor's voice boomed through his translator. Your world has been noticed by our scouts. Commander Park stepped forward as Earth's chosen representative. He looked tiny next to the aliens, but showed no fear. Earth welcomes you in peace, he said. Handor made a sound that might have been laughter. Peace is for equals. We come to offer you protection under our empire. For 10,000 years, we have guided lesser species toward proper development. The cameras broadcasting worldwide caught the slight narrowing of Park's eyes, the only sign of his anger. We are a young species by galactic standards, Park replied carefully, but we prefer to find our own path. Handor's scales rippled in what the humans would later learn was amusement. All species say this at first, you will learn. He looked around at Earth's technology with what seemed like pity. Your development is adequate, though your bodies are soft and weak. While the official meeting continued, Lieutenant Lee quietly collected air samples near the Dravik. She noticed how they seemed to breathe heavily in Earth's atmosphere, how their movements created unusual heat patterns on thermal cameras. In labs around the world, scientists began studying everything they could about the visitors. Dr. Song discovered something interesting about their biology. They're silicon-based, she explained to the Emergency Council later that night. Their bodies are incredibly strong but require massive amounts of energy to function. They generate extreme internal heat. A weakness? General Choi asked. Potentially. Dr. Song nodded. Their strength comes at a cost. For the next week, the Dravik remained in orbit, occasionally landing for what they called cultural exchanges. They showed little interest in Earth's art or music, focusing instead on resources, population numbers, and military capabilities. Handor met with Earth's leaders again. We have decided you will make acceptable subjects. Your planet has resources. We value and your species shows promise despite your physical limitations. And if we prefer independence? Admiral Kim asked. Handor's 6 eyes blinked in sequence. Then we would need to determine your worthiness through the ancient challenge. But few choose this path. Most accept our protection willingly. After the meeting, Park gathered with Earth's Security Council. They're planning to take over one way or another, he said, but they've underestimated us because we don't match their physical strength. What's this challenge he mentioned? Someone asked. According to their data files we've accessed, it's a combat ritual between champions, Lieutenant Lee explained. The winner's species determines the relationship between worlds. They're 3 times stronger than our strongest humans, General Choi pointed out. We can't win a physical fight, but Dr. Song was smiling. Maybe we don't need to fight the way they expect. My team has been studying their biological scans. The Dravik have incredible strength and natural armor, but their endurance is remarkably poor. Their metabolisms burn incredibly hot. Park looked thoughtful. So they're sprinters, not marathon runners. Exactly, Dr. Song said. And humans are the best endurance runners in our world's history. We evolved chasing prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. For the first time since the ships appeared, Hope filled the room. They wouldn't match the aliens for strength. They would use what made humans special. The next day, Commander Park requested another meeting with Handor. His voice was steady as he delivered Earth's answer. We choose the challenge. Handor's scales darkened with surprise, then brightened with what looked like hunger. Very well. Prepare your champion. The outcome will determine your planet's fate. This is the second section of a sci-fi story the user asked for. Remember to use simple English, write in third-person style, and make it interesting. The story should feature Korean names but not common ones like Younghoon, Minjun, etc., and be no more than 800 words without headings. This is the second part called The Challenge. The news spread quickly across Earth. Humans would face the mighty Dravek in their ancient challenge ritual. People were scared but also proud that their leaders had chosen to fight for freedom rather than surrender. Handor announced that the Dravek champion would be Gektar, a warrior who had won over 50 challenges against other alien species. Images of Gektar showed a mountain of muscle and scales, standing 3 meters tall with arms that could crush metal. In a secret facility, Earth's leaders met to choose their own champion. Military generals wanted to send their strongest soldiers. Others suggested using robotic fighters. The rules say it must be a natural member of our species, Dr. Song explained. No robots, no weapons, no special armor. General Choi slammed, his fist on the table. Then we've already lost. Have you seen the size of their champion? Admiral Kim raised her hand for silence. We need to think differently. Dr. Song, tell them your theory again. Dr. Song pulled up biological scans of the Dravek. Their strength requires enormous energy. Their bodies burn hot and fast but can't sustain activity for long periods. It's like comparing a sprinter to a marathon runner. The room grew quiet as understanding dawned. So we need someone with exceptional endurance, Commander Park said, thoughtfully. That's when they called June. He wasn't a soldier or a wrestler. He was an ultra-marathoner who had won races covering hundreds of kilometers across deserts and mountains. June was lean and wiry, with calm eyes that showed no fear when they told him about the challenge. You want me to outrun an alien? He asked. Not exactly, Admiral Kim said. We want you to outlast one. For 2 weeks, June trained while scientists studied everything they could about Dravek biology. They created a special suit that would help regulate his temperature and provide water during the challenge. The Dravek, meanwhile, laughed at Earth's choice of champion. Handor visited the training facility with several officers. This is your champion, he asked, looking at June's slim frame. He would snap like a twig in Gektar's hands. We'll see, Commander Park replied simply. The night before the challenge, June sat quietly in his room. His wife Jin had brought their 5-year-old daughter to see him. Are you scared, Daddy? The little girl asked. June smiled. Yes, but that's okay. Sometimes being scared helps us do important things. Jin hugged him tightly. Just remember, this isn't like your other races. You don't need to finish first. You just need the alien to finish last. The challenge would take place on Earth's moon. The Dravek had prepared an arena in a sealed dome with Earth-like atmosphere and gravity. Billions watched from screens around the world as the two champions entered from opposite sides. Gektar was terrifying in person. His scales gleamed under the lights, and his roar shook dust from the ceiling. He wore only ceremonial bands around his massive arms and legs. June looked tiny by comparison. He wore his specially designed suit and carried nothing else. His face showed focus, not fear. Handor stood in the center to explain the rules. The challenge ends when one champion surrenders or can no longer continue. There are no weapons allowed, no outside help. The winner species decides the fate of Earth. Commander Park watched nervously from the observation room. Will this really work? Dr. Song nodded. June doesn't need to defeat Gektar in combat. He just needs to keep moving until the Dravek's metabolism fails him. The signal was given. The challenge began. Gektar charged immediately, the ground trembling under his weight. Everyone expected June to run away in fear, but instead, He began jogging at a steady pace around the edge of the arena. The Dravek champion roared in frustration and changed direction, trying to cut June off. But each time he charged, June simply changed course while maintaining his steady pace. 1 hour passed, then 2. Gektar's movements became less coordinated. His breathing grew heavier. The thermal cameras showed his body temperature rising dangerously high. "What trickery is this?" a Dravek officer demanded. "Your champion refuses to fight." "There's no rule saying he must engage directly," Admiral Kim pointed out calmly. "He's still participating in the challenge." By the 4th hour, Gektar was struggling to move. His massive strength had become a weakness as his body overheated. He stumbled and fell to one knee. June, meanwhile, continued his steady pace. His training in extreme conditions had prepared him perfectly for this moment. Where others saw a weak human, the Dravek were beginning to see something they'd never encountered before, a being designed for endurance rather than power. "This is impossible," Handor whispered as he watched his champion falter. For the first time since their arrival, the Dravek looked worried. The 5th hour of the challenge began with Gektar struggling to stand. His massive body trembled with exhaustion. Sweat poured from between his scales, making puddles on the arena floor. His breathing came in harsh gasps that echoed through the dome. June kept moving. His pace had slowed slightly, but he maintained a steady rhythm. 1 foot in, front of the other. His special suit recycled his sweat into drinking water, helping him stay hydrated. The training from countless ultramarathons had prepared his body for this moment. In the observation room, Handor watched with growing anger. "This is not combat. Your champion refuses to fight." "He is fighting," Commander Park replied calmly, "just not in the way you expected." Dr. Song monitored June's vital signs. "His heart rate is elevated but stable. He can keep this up for hours. More if needed," the Dravek officers whispered among themselves. They had never seen a challenge like this before. Most species tried to match the Dravek in strength and always failed. Humans had chosen a completely different approach. Down in the arena, Gektar roared in frustration. With a final burst of energy, he charged at June, moving faster than he had in the last hour. For a moment, it seemed he might catch the human. But June had been saving some energy. He quickened his pace just enough to maintain the distance. Gektar's charge lasted only seconds before he stumbled and crashed to the ground, sending dust flying across the arena. This time, he didn't get up. Medical teams rushed in to check on the fallen champion. The arena fell silent as everyone waited. Finally, the chief Dravek medical officer looked up at Handor and shook his head. "Gektar cannot continue. His body temperature is critical. His metabolic systems are failing." Handor's scales darkened with rage. "This cannot be. No species has ever defeated a Dravek champion." Admiral Kim stepped forward. "The rules were clear. The challenge ends when one champion can no longer continue. Ours still can." Indeed, June had slowed to a walk, but was still moving steadily. His face showed tiredness, but also determination. He looked over at the fallen Dravek without pride or mockery, only the quiet satisfaction of someone who had done what they trained to do. The Dravek leaders huddled together, speaking in angry hisses. The treaty required them to respect the outcome of the challenge, but they had never expected to lose. Handor finally approached the human delegation. "Your strategy was unexpected. We did not believe humans capable of such thinking." "There are many kinds of strength," Commander Park said. "Physical power is just one of them." The Dravek ambassador's 6 eyes narrowed. "The challenge is over. By our ancient laws, Earth has earned independence." A cheer went up from the humans watching around the world. On screens across the planet, people hugged and cried with relief. But Handor wasn't finished. "However, there is nothing in our laws that says we must leave your system entirely. We will honor the letter of our agreement, but we will maintain our fleet in orbit around your outer planets." The celebration stopped. This was not the complete victory they had hoped for. Back on Earth, June reunited with his family. His daughter ran into his arms while Jin looked on with tears of pride. "You did it," she whispered as he held them both. I just kept moving, he said simply. That night, Earth's leaders gathered again. The mood was mixed. Relief at winning the eye, challenge but concern about the Dravek ship still in their solar system. They're not leaving, General Choi said. They're just waiting for another opportunity. Admiral Kim nodded. The Dravek have never lost before. They don't know how to accept defeat. Then we need to prepare, Commander Park said. They underestimated us once. They might do it again. Dr. Song pulled up new data on her tablet. We've learned so much about their biology and technology in the past weeks. If they decide to break the agreement and attack, then we'll be ready, Admiral Kim finished. June showed us the way. We don't need to be the strongest to win. We just need to be smarter. As they spoke, satellites detected movement in the Dravek fleet. Ships were repositioning, moving closer to Earth. Communication between the alien vessels had increased dramatically. I don't like this, General Choi said, watching the screens. They're planning something. Commander Park's face was grim as he looked at the data. Send word to all military forces. The challenge may be over, but I fear the real battle is about to begin. In space, the massive Dravek warships turned their weapons toward Earth. Handor stood on the bridge of the command ship, his scales dark with rage. Prepare all weapons, he ordered. These humans have not seen true Dravek power yet. The Dravek attack began at dawn. Their massive ships moved into Earth's orbit, weapons glowing with strange energy. The first shots destroyed 3 satellites before anyone could respond. They're breaking the agreement, Commander Park said, his voice tight but controlled. Activate Defense Protocol Endurance. Across Earth, hidden systems came online. In the 2 weeks while June had trained for the challenge, humans had been preparing for this possibility. They had studied every piece of Dravek technology they could access. Captain Hana took command of Earth's first response fleet. Her ships were smaller than the Dravek vessels but moved with surprising speed. Remember your training, she told her pilots. Don't try to match their power. Use their weaknesses against them. The Dravek expected an easy victory. Their weapons could destroy mountains. Their ships had conquered 100 worlds. But as they fired on Earth's forces, something strange happened. Earth's ships didn't fight back directly. Instead, they released clouds of specially designed particles into space around the Dravek vessels. These particles began to stick to the alien's hull, coating their ships with a substance that absorbed heat. What is this? Handor demanded, as warning lights flashed across his command center. Their weapons do nothing. It's not a weapon, Commander, his science officer replied, voice rising in alarm. They're targeting our cooling systems. Dr. Song had discovered that Dravek ships, like their bodies, generated enormous heat. Their weapons and engines needed constant cooling to function properly. As the strange coating spread across their hulls, Dravek ships began to overheat. Systems failed. Weapons wouldn't fire. In some ships, the heat grew so intense that crews had to abandon sections of their vessels. Handor watched in disbelief as his mighty fleet was crippled not by force, but by clever engineering. How is this possible? He roared. They are primitive. They are weak. On Earth, Admiral Kim monitored the battle from command headquarters. Phase 1 complete, she announced. Begin Phase 2. Earth's ships now moved closer to the disabled Dravek vessels. They fired specialized electromagnetic pulses that had been designed based on scans of Dravek neural implants. These pulses didn't harm human technology, but disrupted the connections between Dravek crew members and their ships. Suddenly, Handor couldn't communicate with half his fleet. Ship captains couldn't coordinate. The mighty Dravek armada fell into confusion. They knew, Handor realized with growing horror. They studied us. They planned for this. In space, Captain Hana directed her ships with calm precision. Target their flagship's engine sections. Use the heat seekers. The missiles didn't need to penetrate the Dravek ship's thick armor. They simply attached to the hull near engine ports, where heat was already building to dangerous levels. When they detonated, they didn't explode with force. Instead, they released chemicals that created an instant reaction with the Dravek engine, exhaust. The reaction generated intense heat, Exactly what the overheating ships couldn't handle. Aboard his flagship, Handor felt the deck shudder beneath his feet. Emergency alarms blared from every direction. Engine core reaching critical temperature, a crew member reported, scales pale with fear. We must shut down or risk explosion. Handor stared at the battle displays in shock. Half his fleet drifted, powerless. The other half was rapidly losing systems as temperatures rose beyond safe levels. And still, the human ships circled, methodical and precise in their attacks. "How?" he whispered. "How did primitive apes defeat the greatest fleet in the galaxy?" On Earth, Commander Park watched with grim satisfaction. "The same way June defeated Gektar. We use their strength against them." Admiral Kim nodded. "Their ships are powerful but inefficient. All that strength generates weakness, heat, inflexibility, arrogance." The battle lasted less than 6 hours. When it ended, the mighty Dravek fleet hung disabled in Earth's orbit. Not a single human ship had been destroyed, though several had taken damage. Captain Hanna opened a communication channel to the Dravek flagship. "Your fleet is defeated. Your weapons are disabled. Do you surrender?" For long moments there was silence. Then Handor's voice came through, subdued and struggling with words he had never expected to say. "The Dravek surrender." In the command center, humans hugged each other and cheered. But Commander Park remained serious. "This is just the beginning," he said quietly to Admiral Kim. "Now we need to decide what kind of victors we will be." She understood his meaning. "We could destroy them completely, after what they tried to do, or we could show them something they've never seen before," Park replied. "Mercy. The decision they would make would change not just Earth's fate, but the future of the entire galaxy." 3 months after the battle, Handor stood in a garden in Seoul. Cherry blossoms fell around him like pink snow. He still found Earth's gravity uncomfortable and the air too rich with oxygen, but he had begun to appreciate the planet's strange beauty. "Your people could have destroyed us," he said to Commander Park, who walked beside him. "Our fleet was helpless, our homeworld defenseless, yet you offered peace." Park watched a butterfly land on a nearby flower. "Destroying you would have been easy. Living with that choice would not." The peace terms had shocked the Dravek. Humans asked not for surrender but for alliance. They wanted cultural exchange, trade agreements, and a promise to help free other species under Dravek control. Most surprising of all, humans had shared their technology for cooling systems that would make Dravek ships more efficient. It was a gesture the warrior race could not understand. "In 10,000 years of conquest," Handor admitted, "we never considered that strength could take this form." News of the Dravek defeat spread quickly across the galaxy. Species that had lived under their rule for generations began to question their masters. Some rebelled openly. Others sent secret messages to Earth, asking for help. In a large meeting, Hall representatives from 12 alien species gathered with human leaders. Some looked like walking plants. Others resembled giant insects or floating jellyfish. All had one thing in common: they had been conquered by the Dravek. Ambassador Yuri addressed them with respect. "Earth does not seek to replace one empire with another. We believe each species must find its own path." A jellyfish-like being floated forward, its tentacles glowing with changing colors. "But how will we defend ourselves if the Dravek return to their old ways?" "Together," Yuri answered simply. "We form an alliance where each member contributes their unique strengths." This was a new idea for beings used to thinking in terms of masters and slaves, predators and prey. But they had seen how humans, physically weaker than most species, had defeated the mightiest warriors in the galaxy. On the Dravek homeworld, changes came slowly but steadily. Young Dravek began questioning the old ways. Why conquer when you could trade? Why destroy when you could learn? Handor's own child, a young female named Mardak, became one of the first Dravek to visit Earth as a student, rather than a conqueror. "They think so differently, Father," she told him through a video call. "They value cooperation over dominance. It should make them weak, but somehow it makes them stronger." Handor nodded slowly. I am beginning to understand this. It is not comfortable, but perhaps necessary. 1 year after the failed invasion, the first meeting of the Galactic Council took place. 27 species attended, including humans and Dravek. Each brought unique perspectives and abilities. June attended as a special guest. The human who had outpaced Gektar was now a symbol of this new approach to strength. He sat quietly as leaders discussed trade routes, scientific cooperation, and mutual defense. During a break, a young Dravek approached him nervously. It was Gektar's son. "My father told me to give you this," the young alien said, holding out a ceremonial armband that had belonged to Gektar. "He says you are the first being ever to defeat him honorably. He has learned much from this." June accepted the gift with a bow. "Tell him I would be pleased to run with him again someday, not as opponents but as friends." As the council meeting resumed, Commander Park stood with Admiral Kim and Dr. Song, watching the different species interact. "Did you ever imagine this when we first saw their ships?" Kim asked. Park shook his head. "Never. I just wanted our planet to survive," Dr. Song smiled. "And now we're helping build something entirely new." The first official act of the Galactic Council was to end slavery throughout known space. The second was to establish free trade between all member worlds. The third was to create a shared scientific database where all species could contribute their knowledge. As Hondor signed these agreements on behalf of the Dravek, he looked across the table at Commander Park. "You never needed our protection," he said quietly. "Perhaps in the end, we needed yours." Park smiled. "Not protection, partnership. There are threats in this galaxy none of us can face alone." Hondor nodded slowly. "Then let us face them together." Outside, the council chamber, the stars shone on a galaxy that was changing. Old empires were falling, new alliances were forming. And at the center of it all was a small blue planet whose people had proven that true strength comes in many forms. The strongest species in the galaxy had been defeated not by greater power, but by greater wisdom. And in that defeat, they had found a better way forward.